All right, welcome once again to our Points in the Paint podcast presented by Hell of a Good Dip. Dave Flemming, Sean Farnham. Is this week 5 for our podcast?
I believe so, and I'm as equally surprised that we're still doing this, and we have not been fired yet, but somehow, some way, we fooled them for another week.
Week 5, here we are. Lots to talk about. This week's guest is Gonzaga point guard Ryan Nembhard, leading the nation in assists, just playing at a super high level. So we'll have Ryan on in just a few minutes. Sean, before we get to all that, I did want to bring up one thing before we get started. The WCC Commissioner Stu Jackson issued a statement this week about some of the things that are going on around NCAA athletics. I thought that I would read the statement and we could just sort of let it speak for itself. You and I can have a quick comment on it, but I do think it's important. It's important to the conference. It's an issue that you and I have talked a lot about over the last few years. So let me just read the statement real quick as we get going. Here's the statement from Stu Jackson just a few days ago. Assessing the numerous changes in college athletics and their effects, it appears the autonomy for conferences are seizing more decision-making power. It's vital for the basketball-focused leaders and a broader group of stakes-holding decision-makers across college sports to build engaged and properly weighted representation as we look forward for basketball and Olympic sports in the wake of these discussions. The future of college athletics and the opportunities for the larger pool of student athletes requires a diverse collaboration of representation focused on the greater good. Opportunities should not be commandeered by a few to dilute the fairest benefit to all. I don't want to put words in his mouth. I'll let the statement speak for itself. But I think, Sean, the spirit of it is for those of us who love things like WCC basketball, there is a fear right now that the, quote, Power Four conferences, whatever you want to call them, are going to squeeze out the student athletes, the teams, the schools, the programs, the history in various ways of places like the WCC. And that would be a bad thing for college sports.
There's been a lot of things that have been bad for college sports over the last couple of years. Paying student athletes is not one of them, just in case you thought that's where I was leaning. That train has been coming down the tracks for a long time, and I'm in favor of it. But the decisions that have been made and the realignments and the loss of conferences, such as the Pac-12 as we knew it, the instability across the landscape in other conferences, the arms race for money, the impact of football driving everything while losing sight on every other sport that the NCAA represents. This is a money grab. It's been a money grab. It's continuing to be a money grab. And I don't think it's going to change from being a money grab, Dave. And we have new leadership in Indianapolis. But that leadership has to work against all the lawsuits that are being filed, the court cases, the decisions that are trying to be made. And at the end of the day, it's power and money. And that's what's driving it, instead of these academic institutions that are offering life-changing education, life-changing experience to become the best version of yourself. Like, the NCAA has these commercials, you're not going to go pro and everything, and that's fine. And that's the reality, and that's true. I, academically speaking, was a full appointment to the United States Air Force Academy. That means I was a pretty darn good student. But I actually received a denial letter from UCLA. I did not gain admittance into UCLA. It only changed when I became a recruited athlete by the basketball team. And that opportunity to get an education at UCLA changed my life forever, because I got to represent UCLA basketball, because I got to become a captain of the UCLA basketball team. And from that, I was an assistant coach at Pepperdine and then into my broadcasting. There are so many student athletes that have similar stories to mine, where they met a booster, they met somebody while they were a student athlete, and it changed the whole trajectory of their lives. And we have devalued education in this process. We have promoted financial gains and benefits. We have created a culture where now we have instability on rosters based on the fact that you can get money from this school and then you can transfer as many times as you want, and you can play seemingly now forever. I've covered multiple players this year that have played for 7 years, 7 seasons of actually being on the court for more than 10 games every single season. 7. I wonder what the diplomas look like when you've transferred 4 or 5 times. Do you actually graduate, and what does that diploma say, and from where? Because at the end of the day, even if you're a professional basketball player, Google search the average NBA length of a contract, the amount of time you get to spend in the NBA. It's not as long as you think. For every LeBron James that there is, and there's not many of them, there hasn't ever been one of him. There are guys that last less than a season, 2 years maybe tops, maybe get through their rookie deal and they're gone. And for the rest of life, what do they fall back on? And I think that we have lost that perspective in the mindset of trying to promote the fairness of student athletes getting paid and the fairness of student athletes being able to transfer, just like coaches can leave a school here to and from. And in doing so, we continue to deteriorate the true mission of being a student athlete at the collegiate level. And these conference realignments, you've heard coaches complain about it. Mick Cronin has been very vocal about the travels at UCLA. They've seen the Statue of Liberty 3 times on their trips. Well, these are all things that were decided by his athletic director. So all of those things were done in order to try to erase, whether it be financial debt or to increase financial gain. And when that's your focus is no longer on the experience and the life-changing experiences in which you can gain through college athletics. And if you think that I'm pontificating on something that doesn't have any merit, that's fine. But go ask Jay Wright. Go ask Tony Bennett. There's a reason why they're not coaching in the game anymore. And we continue to see people step away from a great leadership position that can alter and change lives. And I'm thankful for my experience at UCLA. Do I wish I would have had the opportunity to make money while I was a student athlete at UCLA? Yes, I do. And do I think I would have made money? I do. But at the same point in time, that experience has changed and opened up every avenue that I've been able to walk through in my life, and I'm greatly appreciative for it.
19-year-old Sean Farnham could have pitched some products.
I would have. I would have been like, welcome everybody to the Sean Farnham podcast, brought to you by Hell of a Good Dip.
Hey, look, there's nothing I could say that is more poignant and on point than what you just said. I don't want to top you or have a final thought. I want to let you have a final thought before we take our break. But I will say this, even from a pragmatic side, you and I both work for ESPN. The property of college football especially is very valuable to us, to other networks. It generates a lot of money. And I do understand the pursuit of that big pot of money because there's a massive market in this country for that. And I understand that. I get that. But even just all the stuff that you talked about is the more important stuff. But even if you toss that aside, and even if you just say, let's take the long-term view on what it means to be a college sports fan. If you kill off all of the other cool stuff outside of a very few schools in one sport and allow that to deteriorate or disappear or go away, or schools to just mail it in and say, this isn't worth it to us, your long-term value of those big properties that is driving all of this will, in my opinion, most certainly go down. That would be a terrible thing, even just from a bottom line perspective, to allow that to happen. Because the part of what makes college sports so popular and fun and endearing is all that stuff that you were talking about. All the stories of the kids who weren't just the very few top highly recruited kids in one sport. It's all of it. That's what makes college sports fans. That's what drives viewership to not just WCC basketball or women's volleyball in the Final Four. That stuff does also drive viewership to college football. So even just from a pragmatic standpoint, it would be a massive mistake to leave the folks like the Big East Conference, the WCC Conference, Olympic sports, women's sports, to leave them out of the discussion of how this whole thing is going. And I think that was the point of the statement.
I agree. But you and I will experience a great story on Saturday night when you and I are sitting in Moraga and we're watching Gonzaga take on St. Mary's in what has become the premier rivalry in the West region of the United States. And you and I will be sitting courtside. The fans will be right behind us. We won't be able to hear anything. And we're going to watch two great teams go to battle. And you know what? I promise you this. There'll be over 1 million people watching on ESPN. Over 1 million. You know how I know that? Because every time we've done this game, there has been for about the last 13 years. And so let's not lose that. Let's not lose the opportunity for these rivalries to form in smaller conferences and allow them to galvanize a nation and create an identity of like, you know what, this is a big, big game. You know why it's a big game? Because there's good players, great coaches, unbelievable environment. And when you flip around on the TV, even on the East Coast, and it's 11 o'clock Eastern time, and we come on air, and you can't hear us talk, you're going to say, ooh, this looks fun. I want to watch this for a little bit.
It will be the most fun gym in America on Saturday. It will be. Gonzaga St. Mary's Part 1 this year. Great segue. We'll take our break. When we come back, the point guard of the Zags, Ryan Nembhard, will join us on Points in the Paint back right after this. All right, we're back. It's our Points of the Paint podcast covering WCC basketball, brought to you by Hell of a Good Dip, Dave Flemming, Sean Farnham, and happy to be joined by the point guard of the Zags, #1 assist man in all of college basketball, Ryan Nembhard, second year at Gonzaga. Huge games, plural, coming up this week, not just the one that Sean and I will be there for. You lead the nation in assists. Does that sound good, Ryan?
Sounds great, man. It's a good feeling for sure.
Take me through this evolution, right? Like, I mean, you transfer from Creighton. Obviously, it's noted your brother transferred in from Florida and excelled. What is it about Mark Few and this offense, Ryan, that has just clicked with you and allowed you to thrive to the level? You've got over 450 assists now in less than 2 years. I mean, just a silly, ridiculous number. How have you been able to click so easily with this offense?
Yeah, first I think it's just Coach Few, the confidence he instills in his players and the confidence he gives you to go out there and play your game and play through mistakes. So I think that's the biggest thing. The timing he gives you in terms of just everything you do on a daily basis is huge. So I think that's the main thing. And then when you're playing with such great players that can put the ball in the hoop, man, sometimes all you gotta do is get your bigs the ball and they're gonna do the rest. So my teammates are huge for all that.
What's Coach Few like to the players? We know what he's like to us. What's he like to you guys?
He's a good dude, man. He's a great dude, man. He's super funny, super witty off the court. Good guy, easy to talk to, easy to get along with. And on the court, he definitely has that little mean streak in him where he gets on guys and is tough on guys, but he's super honest, which I love about him, man. He's a straight shooter. He's gonna tell you the real, whether you like it or not. And that's something I really love about him and something that I think just builds good culture and good program.
You're basically an Iron Man right now. I mean, you're playing 35 plus minutes a night. So take me through when you have some of these shorter windows. You got a little bit of longer window this week with a game on Tuesday and then the game on Saturday. But in some of these games, you know, you're playing on Thursday night. You're coming right back on Saturday. You're logging big minutes. What do you do to recover, both physically and mentally, to be able to turn that page and be ready to go when you're asked to again?
Yeah, physically for sure, just trying to get in the ice tub, cold tub, warm tub, whatever it is to kind of recover. Just relax, kind of, especially if you play Thursday, probably take that Friday and probably a lighter practice and just kind of chill at home, man. Get some sleep, relax, not do too much. I think that's huge. And then kind of get right back to it Saturday. It's not like you said, not much time for break, but yeah, just try and take care of your body the best you can in that little time and try and recover for the next game.
Maybe a scented candle as you sit in the tub to relax.
Yeah, something like that, man. That's a vibe for sure.
Hey, speaking of logging huge minutes, I mean, you're basically not coming off the court, but your head coach made a starting lineup change this last weekend. Can you give us a little insight into what went into that and how it worked?
Yeah, I think it was just, I think we had to switch some things up. I think Graham's thing was a one-off thing. I think he'll be back in the starting lineup, and I think we just had to make some changes. We lost 2 tough games that were pretty close, but we weren't great defensively, and we haven't been very great defensively as of late. So I think we just needed to change, and we always have trust in our guys 1 through 10 this year. We got a lot of guys that contribute, and I think this only creates more competition, more guys that want to compete to get on the floor. And now we got some great scorers off the bench that could provide a boost there. So I think it's a good thing for us.
You mentioned the defense. You guys gave up 200 points in 1 week and lost back-to-back games. That's not normal for Gonzaga. You know that, in particular in West Coast Conference play. So what was the conversation like? You're a leader on this team. You've been a leader on this team since really you arrived on campus that very first day. But, like, you really are the leader, one of the leaders of this team. What was that conversation like? And what was the focus to get back on the right track?
Yeah, I think we've kind of been having conversations like this all year. You know, we had some players only meetings early in the year when we lost some close, tough games, back to back games, and some things we weren't happy about. So just real, super real talks, super truthful, super honest. Whether guys' feelings are getting hurt or not, I think it was good to have those real conversations. And at a certain point, I feel like we're at the point now where we're done talking about it. You know, we've had these meetings, we've had talks about it, and at this point, we got to go out every single day, compete on the floor against each other, and try and make each other better. So, I think that's kind of our thing moving forward. We're done talking. It's time to show it now.
And it sounds like at least Ajayi was, I know Sean was sort of referencing this, but it sounds like Ajayi was giving you a lot of credit for delivering that message over the week leading into the weekend.
You know, I'm in my last year of college, and I'm not trying to go out with no regrets. You know, obviously a lot of things that we want to achieve as a team this year, and we want to win a lot of games. So I don't want to be at the end of the year and be like, I should have done this or I should have done that. So I think it's time I step up as a leader, and obviously after two tough losses, especially one at home like that, where you let up 100 points on your home floor in front of your fans, is something you don't want. So I think it was time for me to step up.
I know you're all about the team, and we'll get right back to the team. But I do have to ask you, because you're talking about leadership, we're talking about assists, we're talking about your durability.
Yeah.
You're one of the best point guards in the country. There's no doubt about it. The Kuzi Award list came out. You're on that list. What does that individual recognition mean to you, given the fact of who that award's named after and how many greats have won that award, that you're in that mix and that conversation here as we're ready to turn the page into February?
Yeah, it's a blessing, honestly. I think it's a testament to my work. I work so hard. I love the game so much, and I pour everything into the game. So I think it's just a testament to the work I put in every single day, for years now. And I'm blessed to be upon that list with probably a bunch of other great point guards. And yeah, you know, credit to my teammates too, because I can't do it without them. But I'm super blessed to be on that list.
The Saturday, it's the rivalry matchup between St. Mary's and the Gales. Let me ask you this. From a rivalry perspective, how would you describe the matchup between Gonzaga and St. Mary's? You came from, obviously, the Big East, where there was a lot of great matchups and a lot of great battles. But what is that rivalry like when you're playing out on the floor between the Gales and the Bulldogs?
Yeah, I think there's so much. My last year, like you said, was my first time ever experiencing it, and you could just tell the hate that the fans have for each other, kind of when you're in their building, when they're in our building. There's a lot of chants going on that are just, you know, a little crazy. So it's one of the best rivalries in all of college basketball, I think. And I think some people don't get a chance to see it because we're on the West Coast. We play super late at night, but people need to tap into this rivalry for sure. It's big time.
The warm-ups, like, you'll be out there on Saturday night on that court, and it won't be a normal warm-up session for you guys.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I don't expect anything less. And we love that. You know, we love going down there and playing them. We obviously got them there last year. So can't wait for that one. It's going to be fun.
Now, let me ask you this. Is it true, and I've heard this is true, and you can correct, some people have said that you lost back-to-back games of the WCC and you gave up all those points because Flemming and Farnham haven't been on the call of your games. Like,
Yeah.
how truthful is that? I mean, how much do you guys miss seeing Farnham and
Yeah.
Flemming? And will there be some sort of a parade when we get to Spokane in February?
Hey, yeah, I'm sure there will be. You know, it's been a minute, man. I've been missing seeing you guys around. It's been a little too long, but yeah, we can't wait to get you guys back on the call. We're looking forward to it, man.
Sounds kind of corny for us to say this because you're a grown man and we are too, but I think the two of us are proud of you. I mean, you represent your school and your conference at a very, very high level. It's really fun to watch you play.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. It means a lot.
Sean, any final thoughts for Ryan before we let him go?
Assists that you're going to finish with over at the end of the season. What's the number going to be?
Are we going to get to double digits per game?
I'm trying, man. I think we can get there. I think it's possible if we keep going with this little streak we got. So I think it's possible for sure.
Tell some of those dudes to knock down some of those threes. That'll help on some of those assist numbers for you, my man.
Gotta knock some of these down, man. We gotta figure it out. Appreciate you guys, though.
Ryan
Thank you.
Nembhard, we'll see you in a few days. Thanks. We'll come back with more Points in the Paint podcast right after this. All right, back here on Points in the Paint podcast, brought to you by Hell of a Good Dip. Just a real quick jump back to the games from last week. Really impressive. First of all, the game we talked about, St. Mary's and USF. St. Mary's took care of business at home. Then they go on the road to Pullman. They're down 10 in the second half against Washington State and stay undefeated with a come-from-behind road win that, man, that is a great win for the Gales.
That's a get on the plane and get out of town kind of win. And in fact, when I talked to Randy Bennett about that game, he's like, "Get me out of Pullman." That's a tough game, and you've got to understand. And I played there, and I know you've been there, Dave. It is a tough flight to get to. They always play tough at home, and you know that you're going to have to work for it. And they worked for it. They showed me something in that game that I think I needed to see. Now they're 18-3 on the season. I don't see any reason why they should not be ranked in the top 25. I don't. And I think nationally people are sleeping on them. I think they're going to be, and I said this weeks ago, they will wear a home color uniform in the NCAA tournament. And Joe Lunardi's slowly starting to move them up a little bit in his bracketology, and we've got a long way to go. But the start of this stretch, and we talked about how important this stretch was for them, they've gotten off to a good start. And now it's another big week for them, a massive week for them. But, you've got experienced leadership at their guard position with Augustus Marshallonis. He understands exactly how he's supposed to play. They rebound the ball almost as well as anybody in the country. So even when you're down, their efficiency and their ability to manufacture second chance points and offensive rebounds gives them a chance to come back and fight to win a game. And that's what they proved that they could do in Pullman in that big win against Washington State.
Yeah. So, and to me, this is the perfect week to demonstrate what this league is this year, because the game that you and I have circled, the game that we've been looking forward to for months, is on Saturday. Yep. Zags at Gales. Both of those two teams are going to be severely tested before Saturday. Tuesday night, Oregon State at Gonzaga, and Wednesday, St. Mary's has to go to Santa Clara. Now, look, I watched Santa Clara at Oregon State this last week. Santa Clara played really well. They lost that game. Michael Rattay was amazing. I mean, he was making shots. He looked like an NBA guy.
He's averaging 25 points per game over his last four.
And it's high degree difficulty shots. It's late shot clock makes. He is a heck of a player. Heck of a player.
I would say he's a hell of a good player. Which reminds me of a hell of a good dip. But no, I mean, you're right. And here's the funny thing about it. Like, Oregon State might be good enough to make sure that this conference doesn't get three teams in the NCAA tournament. Right? Because, you're like, oh, Santa Clara gets a big win against Gonzaga. Here we go. The Broncos are going to go on a run because you need that separation. Oregon State comes up, punches them right back down. And you look at Oregon State and what Wayne Tinkle has been able to do, and I saw them in Hawaii, and I love their defense. I think when they lock in at the defensive end of the floor, they're really, really good. But then you see some of their losses, like the loss against LMU. That one still kind of rings loudly. A 1-point loss to Santa Clara, that wasn't going to hurt them. Obviously, the San Francisco one on the road doesn't absolutely kill them. But you want to start to see some separation. Here's an opportunity, by the way. You're looking at Oregon State, where they go to Gonzaga. Now, remember, they beat Gonzaga at home. And Washington State and St. Mary's. This next 3-game stretch, can they move from a team that's just on the outside of looking at the NCAA tournament to a team that everybody talks about? They go 3-0 in that stretch. I promise you, everybody in the nation will be going, man, what's going on with the Beavers? What has Wayne Tinkle got cooking out there right now? And Michael Rattay is good enough to get that down. Like, he is good enough to lead them, and his efficiency at 50% plus shooting from the floor. They rebound the ball, and that's what Rattay is so good at. And that's why he needs to continue to play through him, especially in those late shot clock moments.
Yeah, you and I had a game together this week, and we got to see a kid for Baylor, VJ Edgecombe, who's got a chance to be a top 5 pick. Now,
Yep.
I'm not saying Michael is that, but go watch that. Santa Clara was making one good play after another on the road down the stretch in that game, and he just wouldn't be denied on the other end. It was incredible shot making. I was really, really impressed. Really impressed.
He's been outstanding. 18 points per game now on the season. And again, this is a big stretch for them. So we talk about St. Mary's stretch. Oregon State's in a big stretch. Gonzaga's in a big stretch. I mean, because you look at Gonzaga, everybody right now is 2 games out, right? 2 games out of St. Mary's. And this week, the Zags have tonight against Oregon State and then at St. Mary's over the weekend. You can't afford to lose either one of those games. I mean, if you lose, in particular to the game on Saturday, you're 3 behind potentially of St. Mary's, depending upon what happens on Wednesday and tonight.
All right, so we talked to Ryan Nembhard about the Zags making a starting lineup change, and he kind of clued us in. Graham Ike is probably going to be right back in the starting lineup. I think you and I probably expected that, but it was interesting. It's not that Mark Few is afraid of tinkering. He's not. He's a coach who's very willing to shake things up. But it definitely, without having to articulate it, it told you what he thinks about this last stretch for them. That he was willing to shake it up pretty significantly. I mean. Braden Huff was in the starting lineup. Ike, Ajayi, Battle all came off the bench for the Zags on Saturday night.
Well, and I think that's what good coaches do. We saw Scott Drew do it on Saturday in our game that we had. We put the game started in Norchad O'Meara and VJ Edgecombe, the 2 best players on Baylor, were benched after a sluggish start where the team was trailing by 7 very early on in that game. And what it does, it sends a message to everybody else that no one is above the program. And if you're not going to compete at the level in which is necessary to compete, then go sit on the bench for a little bit and think about it. Watch how a game develops, and then try to see if you can come back and impact the game in a positive fashion that way. I think it was a brilliant move by Mark Few. I think it's an attention-getting move, not for him to the public, but for his team. To be like, listen, I've won a lot of games, and he has. He's going to be a Hall of Fame head coach. I mean, he is as the elite of the head coaches we have in college basketball, period. And when he steps up and says, hey, we're making a change, that is a put everybody on notice. You're either going to lock in or you're going to sit down. And conversely, from that, you got the best game you've pretty much gotten since Michael Ajayi has shown up on campus against Portland. A 20-point performance is something that we thought would be maybe commonplace for him in Spokane, especially in conference play. And maybe this is the wake-up call that they needed. And every team goes through that evolution. And these are the days in this college basketball season that sometimes it grinds on you a little bit. You're far enough away from March that you're not thinking about it. The excitement of initially starting conference play has subsided a little bit. These are the games that really test you mentally. But when you have a schedule like, in particular, St. Mary's and Gonzaga has this week, those are all 4 of those games that are being played with those teams involved in it this week are attention-getting games. And if you're not locked in, if you're not on to the details, these games will be won by the detailed team. Who is the most detailed in understanding the scout, what they have to do, protecting the ball, boxing out, limiting second chance. That's going to determine who's going to win those 4 contests that those 2 teams have this week.
All right, I'm not going to ask you to pick a winner, but as our final thought here before we sign off for another week, Saturday on ESPN, you and I will be in Moraga. It's the Zags and St. Mary's, part 1 of what over the last many years has been part 1 of 3. Every year these teams battle 3 times to essentially determine the WCC Championship. Whether that happens this year or not, it's a huge game. How do you see it playing out?
I see it being the loudest environment in college basketball this weekend. I think that the guards are going to dictate the game. Like if Nembhard can get the best of Marshallonis, or if Marshallonis gets the best of Nembhard, that's going to be the difference maker in the game. The tempo of the game will not change. We know that. We've seen this before. The tempo will be very deliberate, very focused, and I expect an absolute all-out emotional brawl on the court. Like, it's going to be physical. I know when I say brawl, I don't mean like obviously physical altercation. I just mean back and forth, great plays, physical plays, having to fight through contact, having to fight through screens, execution. It's what we've come to expect. People say the standard is the standard, right? Well, the standard of this rivalry has been unbelievable games, in particular in that environment, where we've seen some amazing things happen. And we've seen times where it looked like St. Mary's was down and out, and Aiden Mahaney went for 17 in the second half, and the Gales came storming back and won the game. We've seen that. We've also seen times where Gonzaga's come in and absolutely boat raced them in this rivalry. And it's been great. And there's been a lot of big moments, and hopefully we'll have another opportunity for you and I to be on a call of another big moment in this great rivalry on Saturday night on ESPN.
I would be shocked if it doesn't come down to the final 2 minutes of the game, 1 minute of the game, final possession of the game. I'll be shocked.
I agree.
That's how they play out. That's why we love it. All right, another week in the books. We will have a lot to talk about next week. Sean, see you in a few days.
Can I just tell you one thing that I want to make sure that we leave everybody with this week?
Yes, please.
I can't believe that the Chiefs are back in the damn Super Bowl again. I'm so disappointed by this. It is just disheartening. I'm still not over it. As a 49ers fan, I will never be over it. I will never accept it. But I really was pulling for the Bills big time this year, and just very disappointed. Very disappointed.
Well, I was too, but I love Josh Allen, but you got to respect the championship DNA. No matter what sport you watch or care about, what team you care about, gosh, those Chiefs are impressive.
I agree, and I'm just disappointed by it. Oh, well. At least I had a hell of a good dip while I watched the game.
Me too. I have the rest of it in my refrigerator right now. All right, Sean, talk to you in a few days. That's our Points of the Paint podcast, brought to you by Hell of a Good Dip. Talk to you next week.